Over the last few years, I picked up a little hobby, kayaking. I don't do a whole lot or anything, but I do just a little bit on this river near our farm. It's called the Big Sioux River. So anyway, I've gone on these very short kayak trips. You know, it's only literally like 3 miles or 5 miles if you were to drive it, but the way the river winds, it'll take you 2, 3, 4 hours to get down this path. So anyway, as I'm going down along the river, in a lot of cases I see nice riparian areas, and in other cases there's farm ground right up to the riverbank, or in some cases there are just riverbanks that are very eroded compared to other areas where it's all nice. So we wanted to talk just a little bit today about these riparian areas. What we're discussing here is next to rivers, next to any water, what should be there for vegetation? Should farmers be farming right up to the edge? Should there be other vegetation there? And if so, what kind of vegetation are we looking for?
Well, we want to be real careful here, Brian. We're not asking for any regulation. We're not asking for any governmental agency to tell farmers what they should do. We just want to put out some facts and some ideas and let farmers make the best decision for their land. Because the big things on our farm is we want to keep our soil out in our fields. We don't want it to leave our fields at all. We don't want erosion. We don't want that dirt moving. That's number one. Number two, we want clean water coming out of our fields. That's why we're such big proponents of drainage tile, because we let the water soak down through our soil and filter out any contaminants before it leaves. And every time that we've sampled water, it's left the field at drinking water quality. So that's a big thing for us. We want clean water and no soil leaving our fields.
So one of the biggest issues when we're talking about these riparian areas is having water-loving plants close to the river. Things like rushes, for example. It's got to be something that can withstand fairly heavy amounts of water at certain times of the year. And the other thing is it's got to have a good base. It's got to have a good root system that's going to help hold that bank in place, because we want to see as little erosion of that as possible long term. Then beyond that, you usually get to bigger trees and a lot of tree species or even shrubs that can withstand water. And then as you go further away from the river and closer to the field, then we're talking about other vegetation that is usually found in a little bit drier conditions. So basically what we're describing here is you go from the field to some grass species especially, and some other plants that will help catch that sediment as it's coming down. Then you've got some trees and shrubs to catch any remaining sediment. Then as you get closer to the riverbank, you've got vegetation there that can help hold that bank in place. That's really what a riparian area is. And like Darren said earlier, we're not talking about asking for more government regulation or wanting any more government regulation. What it comes down to is, as farmers, we've got to regulate ourselves. If we do a good job of that, then the government doesn't even need to be involved. But what we get concerned about is if you're farming right up to the edge of the riverbank, and maybe that might work in your particular area, I don't know, that's up to you. But all I'm saying is you got to be really careful to make sure that your dirt, your chemical, your fertilizer, nothing goes down into the riverbank, and you hold that riverbank in place as much as possible.
Well, riparian areas can certainly help keep your farm ground on your farm ground. That's one thing, Brian, and to try and purify any water that's coming off and ending up in a river or stream. The other side benefit of this is wildlife. When you think about along those rivers and streams, this is where wildlife really wants to be. Rather than having my crop get all chewed up and fed on right along the river, here's a nice little buffer strip where we can keep perhaps some food plots in as well to feed the wildlife and also provide for some good hunting opportunities too.
With many of the new pesticide labels that are coming out, they talk about buffer strips and needing to be so far away from sensitive plants or so far away from a river, for example. So this is one of the things too. In some cases, you might not even be able to farm anywhere near the river. So that's where having that nice riparian area is good as a buffer in there. We just want you to be smart if it's on your farm and having that riparian area, knowing what plants need to go there. Something that's going to help hold that bank in place, something with deep roots, something that's water loving. And as you get closer out toward the field, then obviously it's not as big an issue having something water loving. We just need something there that's going to catch that sediment, be able to absorb any nutrients that could potentially come off the field, that kind of thing. Because again, our goal here is to make sure that we do a great job in our fields and we have clean water also.
Well, part of doing a great job in your field is getting weeds like our Weed of the Week under control. Can you identify this week's weed?